Hello and welcome to the breakdown. We are at our election night analysis point. I am Tara Setmayer and I will be joined by our Lincoln Project brethren momentarily. And we'll be joined by a bunch of familiar faces: Mike Madrid, Rick Wilson, Jennifer Horn, George Conway, Reed, Galen, Michael Steele, Nate Nesbitt, and a couple more, Tom Nichols. Lots of Lincoln Project faces, some you've seen, some you haven't, so stay tuned for that. But we are going to bring in Mike Madrid and Jennifer Horn first. They are hanging out at our secret mountain lair out there in the Mountain West. And guys, the race is tight. There are a lot of votes yet to be counted. People are freaking out. Mike Madrid, please explain why everyone needs to just take a deep breath.
Sure. Yeah, I'll find a little Zen place. Everybody's going to be okay. Look.
Yes.
Look.
Either this or they're going to hit the bottle.
Things. Yeah. No. Look. First things first. Let's take a look at kind of where we sit and where we stand right now. As we've shared, the remaining states that exist on the map are some of our strongest states where the Lincoln Project has invested very early and very copiously. Specifically Pennsylvania. Okay, we're going to talk about Pennsylvania a little bit more because it's going to take a little bit of time to count Pennsylvania, and there have been some issues, and I want to address both of those for people. The other state, of course, is Arizona. You've heard us talk about Pennsylvania and Arizona at great length. Arizona numbers just came in Maricopa County, the largest county in Arizona. Dramatic overperformance by Biden. He's in a very good position. And in some of the early counts of Pennsylvania, specifically counties that are very important like Allegheny, double-digit overperformance by Biden. Those are two critical states. And for those longtime followers of the Lincoln Project, there were 4 states that we invested very heavily in, 2 which were more defensive positions, 2 which were offensive positions. The 2 which were defensive were North Carolina. The other one was Florida. Not a big deal that they've gone to Trump. They've never been part of our 270 map to begin with. Pennsylvania is a critical state, and Arizona is a critical state. That leaves us with 4 other states I want to talk about. The Great Lakes region, you've heard me talk about this not only here on the breakdown, but also on the podcast with Ron Steslow. Okay, the Great Lakes have been 3 of the most stable states in the entire 270 map. Sorry about that. It's Michael Steele calling in, trying to get a hold of me there.
Michael, we'll be with you shortly, my friend.
He's calling. Yeah, he's trying to get the latest update on the numbers also, but we'll let Michael in just a second. Yeah. So look, the Great Lakes states have been remarkably stable. All 3 of them are in very good position to bring them home. Basically, the message I want to leave you with is the 4 remaining states within which we will get the most recent counts coming up are our 4 strongest states. Arizona on top of that is our backstop, looking very good, and then Nevada. If we win those states, and I expect that we will, we're going to end up with 290 electoral votes, which is 20 more than, of course, than we need. That still leaves us a little bit of margin to lose perhaps 1 or 2 of those states, or at least one of those states, depending on what happens with Nevada. But there is a map. This is not unforeseen. It is closer and tighter than I think that we would like. But if these were the 4 states remaining that we wanted to be involved in, these are exactly the states that I would pick.
Okay, I think a lot of folks just took a collective sigh of relief because it's hard not to be a bit despondent when you see that it's as close as it is. You know, for those who don't follow the numbers as closely as the rest of us do, all the way down to, county levels and the importance of this county and, Lucerne County in Pennsylvania and, Maricopa in Arizona, like a lot of people, they don't know that. They just see the numbers coming up on the networks. They see, Trump is winning in Virginia and they're like, wait, what? But there's only like 40% reporting, like we need to just put it in context and put it in perspective. Before I get to Jennifer, because at least her home state of New Hampshire did the right thing, starting with Dixville Notch with the Biden sweep. But before we get to Jennifer, Michael, Mike Madrid, can you explain why losing Florida and losing those other states really isn't as unexpected as people thought? Because I think there was some over expectations, over statements of what the possibilities were in Florida. Because Biden actually did worse than Hillary. But explain why it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say that it doesn't matter, but it's kind of, they all matter, right?
It
And again, I hate to
matters,
put
but
it
I'm
that way,
saying
but
as
from a
far
data,
as,
yeah.
right,
I understand what you're saying.
just
But
keeping
I
it
just want everybody to
simple.
have an understanding that we're not blowing this off and saying none of this matters. It does
Right.
matter. Here's what I think is probably what is going on with so much anxiety. People have been seeing these polling numbers again in these averages, which it showed Biden with a 90% chance of winning. They're also showing an expanding map, an expanding state by state in places like Florida. Our internals had it at a much tighter range. We talked about that than what we were seeing with public opinion polls. I mentioned those 4 key anchor states where we were looking at 2 aggressively and 2 defensively. Those are designed to push the map and to push the Trump campaign tactically into a more defensive position. Would we have liked to have won Florida? Absolutely. Had we won Florida, the night would already be over. We wouldn't be worrying about the things that we're worrying about at this moment in time. But also be mindful of this fact. Florida and North Carolina are states that sit in the Eastern time zone, okay? And so they're going to report early. We're going to get those results early. And if we did not win those, which it does not appear that we're going to, especially in North Carolina at this point, what that does is it creates sort of a little bit of a panic as the map starts to shrink. I hate to laugh, but I'm just kind of walking through the mathematics of how this is actually going to work and the probability here. As I mentioned, and as we've been talking about, our 4 strongest states have not yet counted. Those are Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota. The tightest of those states actually is Pennsylvania. Let's talk about Pennsylvania for just a moment, okay? Most of the polling averages have this at a 5 to 7 point range. We are seeing extremely high turnout in places like Philadelphia, which is where the heaviest vote count is going to come in. It's going to take a couple of days to process all of the absentee ballots, so we need to be patient as we do go through the vote counting process. But as I mentioned, in a lot of these strong blue counties, like Allegheny County, we're seeing pretty significant overperformance from Joe Biden off of Hillary Clinton's numbers in 2016. I'm also looking at indicators like Ohio. We never had Ohio on our map. We never thought it was going to be competitive. Joe Biden is like within half a percentage point at this point in time as Ohio is coming down to the wire. Why is that important? It's important because the demographics of Ohio are not too dissimilar from Western Pennsylvania. It gives us a really good insight as to what's going to happen as that vote shrink, that overwhelming Trump vote that happened in 2016 is mitigated. Remember, Trump won Ohio by 5. He's now about neck and neck. That 5-point swing is what's going to mitigate that conservative deep MAGA country in Pennsylvania while we drive up the vote totals in places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Puts us in a very strong position to win. Not dissimilar to what we're going to see in the other Great Lakes states, right? The demography of these places are not too bad. In fact, I'm looking at Iowa right now. Iowa has Biden up 5 points. Biden should not be up 5 points. That's a very strong performance in this part of the country. A lot of it has to do with the COVID outbreak that we've been talking about and focusing on for some time. Iowa, Wisconsin specifically have been states that have been particularly hard hit, and we're seeing those results coming in very strongly right now. One quick last point, and I'm sorry for going on so long. We also chose and resourced Arizona. We also chose to resource Arizona very specifically for this eventuality. We knew that as the most western state that had the best viability for moving towards Biden, it would be an insurance policy if the map got a little funky. That's precisely what's happened. So that's why we have been buying into this state and targeting this demographic, not too dissimilar for the reasons we were in Texas, by the way. And what we're seeing is extremely strong performance in Maricopa County. In fact, the distance is so significant between Biden, who's ahead, and Trump, who's behind in that county, that we don't think that there's probably much room for him to catch up, for Trump to catch up and actually win Arizona. Arizona is looking very good. Those 11 electoral votes, I think, are going to be solidly in that in our column and provide a pretty good insurance policy in the possibility of any one of those other states with, again, pretty wide margins for Biden at this point in time, not performing the way that we expect.
To your point, as you were talking, Fox News actually called Arizona for Biden. So that's good news.
Fox
We'll
News
see,
calls
but that,
Arizona for
if
Biden,
Fox
then
is,
I'll take it.
yeah, we'll take
How
that
often
for right
do you
now.
really like what Fox News has to say?
So,
Yeah,
so the important thing here,
exactly.
Tara, is that, these states where we have been looking at very aggressively are falling into a pattern that we would expect. So I thought it would be a later call on Arizona, candidly. I think the performance we got out of Arizona puts it into a column where even Fox News can call it. That makes it even better. The scenario is even better for us as we look at these 4 states. Again, these 4 states that we're looking at are in a better position to win than Arizona was.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So,
Right.
look, anything can happen. You've been hearing me say this since May. Collective
You have.
deep breath. Let's do our ohms a little bit. Let's find that safe space and realize there's still a lot of roadmap to get to where we want to get to need to. And again, with our 4 best states, I'm still feeling pretty good about where we're at.
I was going to say, Tara, I've been stalking Mike all night long because I'm in such so much anxiety. I stay right next to him, so every time he gives somebody an update, I can absorb it and try to stay calm and feel better. But we should tell people, even if Fox News is calling it for Arizona, the others, CNN isn't calling Arizona yet. So I'm going to hold off my celebration until I see it somewhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We should hold off until we get, Decision Desk and others. AP really is one of the best when it comes to this stuff. But it was notable that Fox felt comfortable enough to give it to Biden at this point. Given Fox's posture with things. So
Right.
it was important to note that. But everything, nothing's official yet, but at least it was giving us some life. Like when people were starting to feel down, the numbers started coming in Maricopa, and I was like, okay, it's giving me some life now. This
Right.
Arizona was absolutely key to this entire 270 road, just key. And Arizona, so people understand the significance, if it does in fact go for Biden, they haven't voted for a Democrat for president since the 1950s, except for 1996 for Bill Clinton. That's it. So it's a pretty big deal if the ultimate result is Biden wins Arizona, and is by as much as he's winning right now in Maricopa. Big deal. Jennifer Horn, like I said, yay to New Hampshire, thank God. What else are you looking at? What have you observed tonight, both good and bad, for our Lincoln Project viewers to take in?
Well, I certainly understand why folks are feeling a little anxious and a little uptight about it, because some of those big ones that would have been fun to have. It would have been great to get Florida. Everybody's watching that. That would, I think, would have made everybody feel a lot better. But I think probably the important thing for people to remember is, like, it's not just the Lincoln Project, but the Biden campaign and all these other organizations that have been involved in this. We've all had been talking about certain states and certain different paths to get to the 270. The thing to remember is that there are different paths to get to the 270. It doesn't have to include Florida. It doesn't have to include Pennsylvania. There, as Mike has been teaching us, all of us for the past several months, there are a lot of ways to get there. And the other thing is, maybe it was not a good thing to speculate about, an overwhelming win. We all talked about how good that would make us feel and the personal satisfaction we would get from it. But I think any realistic, analysis of the map, would have told us from the beginning that it was likely going to be a tight race. So I don't really feel, I've had my ups and downs tonight, Tara, just like everybody else. But in all seriousness, I don't really feel overly discouraged right now, because to Mike's point, the right states are still out there for us. And if Arizona does go for Biden, if that's confirmed, through other sources, that's a huge deal. That is a huge accomplishment. And as Mike keeps calling it, our backstop. That gives us a little bit of cover in case any of those other 4 or 5 states that we're still waiting for, disappoint us.
What's the state that, looks like Arizona is going well? Is it Pennsylvania that's really the state that it's going to come down to this? Is that the closest? A good friend of mine is on the ground there in Pennsylvania. He's a state rep in Philadelphia. I texted him earlier in the day and I said, Jordan, how's it looking there? And he told me that the lines were around the block. He
Right.
said he felt like it was Obama level turnout in North Philly and in the minority areas of Philadelphia, which was great. And he said, we're feeling good about it. Um, I'm concerned, and maybe I don't know, maybe I don't have to be, but I'm concerned that if it comes down to Pennsylvania, and given what Trump has put out there about Pennsylvania and
Right.
about how there's going to be riots in the streets, and the Supreme Court was wrong to rule that they can count ballots for a couple days. What can we tell people about Pennsylvania if it comes down to that? What should folks be looking for,
Right.
paying attention to before they start to freak?
Well, first of all, I want to say I've been saying to Mike all night, we really need Pennsylvania, and he keeps telling me it's okay if we don't get Pennsylvania. There are other paths to victory. But there are a couple of things people should realize right now as they're watching and thinking and watching everything come in tonight. I don't think we're going to know Pennsylvania tonight. We know there are issues with some ballots and some counting in Philadelphia, so we need to just accept we aren't going to know Pennsylvania tonight, and that's okay. The Supreme Court ruled, appropriately against the president's foolishness and really dangerous, frankly, statements that he's been making about ballot counting and everything needing to be, counted tonight. I'll tell you, Tara, I am less concerned about the idea of riots in the streets right now than I was the whole time leading up to this. I think that the president underestimates the American people when he thinks that he can incite that kind of hatefulness and violence, between us and against each other. We know that there are some very passionate supporters of the president out there who are easily led by him, and that certainly concerns me. But I don't think that the other side will engage, and that kind of minimizes at least what the concern is. Honestly, your point, Pennsylvania is important, but to Mike's point over and over again, it's not the be all and end all. And we all just need to kind of stay calm and understand that maybe sometime tomorrow, maybe the next day, we'll know what happened in Pennsylvania.
To your point, Jennifer, about how so far the American people have, it's been a rather successful election day, right? We were worried about
Right.
intimidation
Yes.
at the polls. We were worried about
Right.
shenanigans being pulled in places like Pennsylvania or Michigan. So far we didn't hear any stories of militias and Trump caravans and intimidating voters, which is
Right.
good, because frankly I was concerned about that, given what we saw over the weekend with these crazies out there and what they were doing, shutting down bridges and trying to run buses off the road. So I was like, good Lord, what are they going to try to do at the polls? So that was encouraging, to see that everything has so far been calm. I can tell you, though, that
Right.
Washington, D.C. is boarded up. The White House is fenced. There are protesters out there already. And I'm concerned that people aren't going to be as patient as we're asking them to be. And I just don't want that to happen, because
Right.
I just don't, what you know what I
Well, 'cause
mean?
it's
Like,
scary.
we just don't need that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that say about
frightening.
us?
And what is in this? Honestly, I think it says more about the president than it does about the American people. Whatever happens in D.C. or Philadelphia or any of these other places, this president has been going out of his way, intentionally trying to incite violence. He is trying to set the American people one against the other. He wants us to become angry enough that we become hurtful with each other. And I think that the overwhelming majority of us see that. We know it, and they're not going to engage. As far as the president boarding up, calling for the troops to come into D.C. and boarding up and building the unscalable walls and all of that sort of thing. Honestly, I think that the greatest risk for any real danger or damage out of this, unfortunately, are the most ardent of the president's supporters. And I think when the president, make calls for the troops and starts boarding up, I think he does that half for show. He wants his people to believe that Joe Biden's people are going to come out and burn the city down. And so it's just another case of Donald Trump, trying to sow unrest that will give him something to sort of hang his blame on when he loses this thing. And I still believe he's going to lose this thing. So I mean, you just can't say it often enough. Everybody has to stay cool. Don't engage. If the crazies are going to go out there and do their thing, let it be just them. Let there be no doubt about who it is and who is
Right.
engaging in that manner.
Because it just gives,
We all
it just
know
throws
better,
fuel
right,
to
Tara?
fire.
We all know
Right.
better.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And when we can't control what the Portlands of the world do, we can only control what we can control.
Right.
And of course, our message is, looting, rioting, and all of that. No matter what the outcome is never the
Right.
answer. And so, praying for peaceful civil unrest, if that's what's going to be, let it be peaceful.
Right.
Let it not be violent.
Well, but you know what,
Go
Tara?
ahead.
But that's a great point in and of itself, because there will be some peaceful protests out there. There will be peaceful
Yeah.
protests, and the question is, how will the president respond to those? Because we saw when there was peaceful protests in Lafayette Square, he sent his guys out to violently break them up and send split them apart so he could go over and get his photo op in front of the church. I am much more concerned about how this president will respond to actual peaceful protests than I am about anything else.
That's a good point. Mike Madrid, do you have any updates for us? What's happening in Michigan? I just saw that they're, right now it shows Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, I think, that Trump is up. But it's important to note that the major cities like Detroit and with Milwaukee
Right.
and Philly, those numbers haven't come in, right? So talk to me.
That's exactly what is happening, and what's really important to understand is in those three states specifically, the urban core of those cities not only vote overwhelmingly for the Democrat, and Biden will do very, very well there, they are a very significant portion of the state's total vote count. It's oftentimes why they end up being counted later, but what you're seeing now is the rural vote count, which is obviously going to lean towards Trump at this point in the race. So about half of the votes have been counted in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and in Michigan. They're all showing Trump with a lead. That is totally normal. That is totally to be expected. You're going to see an overwhelming bump when those votes in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Madison start to come in, and you see a more urban vote, a lot of African American votes going to be there. I too have heard from folks on the ground that what they're seeing in Philadelphia are 2008 level turnout numbers, extremely high in Philadelphia. So look, it's not comfortable. It's always a little bit awkward when things get this close, but all of the indications and the trajectory seem to be right where we would want them, unless something very peculiar happened. The truth of the matter, the one that was giving me a little bit of heartburn, not too much, but a little bit, was Arizona. Arizona already being put out of play. That was the weakest link in the 5 states remaining, so there are 4 left, and we don't need to win all of them, but I think we're probably in a good position to win all of them.
Tara, I love that he calls it awkward, like it's a bad first date or something. like it's just a little awkward. This is so much worse than a little bit awkward.
Right. Well, I think Mike is trying to diffuse the angst and agita that folks are having by choosing his words carefully, and I appreciate
Good
that,
for
and I'm
him.
sure lots of other folks do too. Just as an update on Arizona, with 75% reporting, it's 53-45 Biden. So that looks pretty good, which is probably why Fox News called it.
Right.
Yeah. And Biden's winning Minnesota as well, which is good, with 61% reporting, which wasn't really too much in play. Can we talk about Nebraska too? Since now it's a little closer than we want. So every electoral vote matters, and Nebraska is one of those funky states where they separate out their electoral votes like Maine. Nebraska too, going into election day, Biden was up +6 or 7. Are we still confident that Biden's going to take that? That's what the Omaha suburbs, right? Or Omaha area.
Yeah, I think a couple of the news sources, I could be wrong, but I think a couple of them have already called Nebraska too for Biden.
Okay. Good.
That's one electoral vote, but it matters. Frankly, it matters actually with the map a lot more for Trump than it does for Biden, because at a certain point he's going to be pushing for a tie. And I know that sounds strange because of the states that are left, but again, we're in a strong position going into these last 4 states, okay? There's a very clear map there. Anything can happen. You're going to hear me say that again. This is just math and probability, but these are some of our strongest states. But Nebraska 2, the 2nd congressional district, and its 1 electoral vote, I believe has already been called for Biden. If it hasn't, it probably will be very shortly.
Good. What about Ohio? We haven't really talked about Ohio, even though it's, Trump is winning now, but it's closer than people expected. And some of the areas in Ohio, this is relevant because the demographics mirror are very similar to Western Pennsylvania. So if Biden is overperforming in some of these places, then that bodes well for him in Pennsylvania, right? Mike or Jennifer, whoever wants to address that.
You nailed it. No, that's exactly right. I mean, to jump in there. That's
yours.
That's exactly right. I mean, those are some of those indicators. I'll give you another indicator that we look at too is Wisconsin and Iowa. It's extremely rare that those 2 states do not vote together.
Right.
I think the pandemic has changed things up a little bit, but even in the count right now, Donald Trump is up by, I think, less than 1 percentage point. It's very close. It's a lot closer than it should be. He beat Hillary Clinton by 9 percentage points in Iowa. He's now currently sitting at less than 1%. So a lot of this tightening that we've been talking about is evident even in states that Trump is winning in. I believe that Donald Trump is going to win Iowa. We played a little bit in Iowa, largely because we were also trying to get that Senate seat too. I think it was the right play. But in the final, in the final analysis, it's not something that Biden needs. It would be kind of nice, and it's kind of nice to have it that close, but there's no moral victories here. You either win or you lose. Iowa's not one that we need, but the demography is very similar. Wisconsin, again, is going to have a very strong late count from its more urban areas coming in probably in the next 20 or 30 minutes, and you're going to see the numbers pop up considerably, and the same thing, you're going to start seeing that in Pennsylvania and in Michigan as well.
Would you say that the issue of not only coronavirus, but also how farmers have been absolutely decimated under Donald Trump, and the only thing that's propped them up has been tens of billions of dollars, $40–50 billion in subsidies, basically artificially propping them up to make up for this trade war with China that Donald Trump is failing miserably. Do you think that that's what's making Iowa competitive this time around, given that, Hillary lost by 9, it's this close now where Biden actually has a shot? And, what else would explain that?
Yeah,
COVID.
Right, that's right. You're right. That and the pandemic.
Yeah.
Tara, I think you're right. I think that absolutely influenced it. And you talked about the bailout money for the farmers. It was distributed in such a way that the majority of them got very, very little of that money.
It went to the big farms.
Ended up with something. Exactly. Those family farmers got $1,000, $2,000. That nothing. So I think that absolutely influenced it. But as we've seen at the Lincoln Project throughout this entire thing, the pandemic has had the overwhelming influence. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, on every demographic in every state. It's just the devastation, the loss, learning that the president knew what the danger was, what the consequences would be, and took this terrible path anyway. And then as we saw, as the pandemic went through from one region to the next, that the economic burden that follows that, a job loss and and then the problems that children were having, and were you going to go back to school? All of these things associated with the pandemic, I think, had really an overwhelming influence on the majority of the voters in this country, or certainly the ones that we were targeting. And again, Mike, you can correct me if I've gotten that wrong in a particular state or something, but I think that's been it.
Yeah, Jennifer's exactly right. Look, Iowa and Wisconsin have been on fire with COVID. You're literally seeing in almost every local news station at this moment in time an overflow of people needing care in rural hospitals, where sometimes the entire state only has 4 or 5 ventilators. And so there are people dying. There are people extremely sick. Infection rates in almost every county in Iowa, and if you know Iowa, there are a lot of counties, are exceeding the national average at this point in time. So that really explains, in my estimation, what's happening in the closeness of Iowa, which would traditionally be in a Trump +5 to +9 range, where he won it last time against Hillary Clinton. But it also explains why Wisconsin has been so remarkably stable for the duration of this entire race. And it's also why I think you're probably going to see Wisconsin have Biden win by 5, perhaps even more points when all the votes come in.
I see that we have a new Lincoln Project brethren join us. It looks like Stuart Stevens, if I am correct, from what I can see, the profile there. We're going to get Stu mic'd up and bring him in a moment. From what I see, I think we were hopeful about Georgia. I was very, very bullish on Georgia, and I was hoping that we would see some results there that were a bit more favorable to Biden. There was polling that showed Biden up there. He overperformed in the Atlanta suburbs, but I think Georgia has been called now for Trump, and he needed to win that state. But I'm a bit surprised, given how close Georgia was in 2018 with Stacey Abrams and the long lines and the voter turnout there. But again, same day voting, Georgia was ultimately a red state. So, but a little closer than people would like. I think that Georgia is going to be a purple state moving forward. Am I correct that Georgia's been called?
Yeah, I think it has. You guys, has Georgia been called? We're going back and forth, all of us here, getting cozy on the couch together, Tara.
Oh, I know.
That's okay.
We haven't seen Georgia get called. We were all sharing your concern about it, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I don't know, Rick, you haven't seen it. You said, right?
No.
So I'm holding out hope, Tara. I don't know how much hope we can hold for Georgia.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I was feeling good about that early on too, but.
Yeah.
I just don't know where that's going to land tonight.
Biden has overperformed Hillary. I mean, in Fulton, he's gotten 71%. Right. Hillary got 69 or 68, I think. Gwinnett, DeKalb, those areas he's overperformed.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen the rest of it. I'm kind of looking at it in my.
There's an issue with some votes in Atlanta, I think, right? I think
there's an issue in Fulton still. With
some ballots that are not yet accounted for in those numbers. So.
Surprise, surprise, given what's happened. Virginia, we have Biden has pulled ahead. Thank you, Jesus, 52-46. I was getting a little nervous. People were tweeting at me and going, what the hell's happening in Virginia? And I was like, oh my God, what do you mean?
Deep breath. Cleansing breath.
Listen.
Find your space.
Look, I've got my bottle ready to open. Yeah, that's where I live, and I was pretty comfortable that 76% Fairfax County, where I live, went Biden. So, thank God. And the majority of the votes in Virginia, they're up here in Northern Virginia, in the D.C. suburb. You have a chunk down there in Virginia Beach. There's a big military contingent there where Trump won handily. But what matters is where most of the votes are, and that's up here in Northern Virginia. And we took care of business. Even Loudoun County, which used to be relatively red, went blue. So that shows you about suburbs. All right. Do we have Rick and Stuart mic'd up and ready to join the conversation?
We are with you.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. I will come to you first, Stu, since you sat down before Rick, and Rick is engulfed in his phone, gaining more knowledge for us. Stu Stevens, good to see you. You have been unbelievable in your contribution to our ads, and in the home stretch, you've really added your expertise and brain power to the Lincoln Project, and I just want to commend you for the great work that you've done for us. Working on 5 presidential elections comes in handy.
This has been the best working experience of my life. It's been tremendously positive. People just focused on the job. It's been great to work with Rick and Reed and Steve and Jennifer and Mike and Ron, the whole group. It's been And there's, the tremendous group of really, I can call them kids, brilliant kids involved in this. So it's been a tremendously positive experience. We just have to bring it home tonight.
Yes.
One of the questions I have for Mike is, Mike, at the end of the day, what do you think is percentage of overall Hispanic vote that Trump is going to get?
He's going to overperform, I think, a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be by much. I don't think he's going to get over 33% of the Hispanic vote. He dramatically overperformed with Cubans.
Yes.
Okay, that's a big part of what happened. The Florida story, that was not a huge secret. We kind of saw that coming. The goal was to try to counterbalance that with senior 65 plus. Florida's Florida, as we say, right? It was. It's one of those states that we were in. We were in it aggressively because you would be foolish not to. If you win it, the race is over. So you got to make the play.
Right.
But there were plenty of road maps beyond 270, and still remain, I think, a good map to getting to where we need to get. The question becomes Texas, right? And that 33% threshold is really what it's about. There is some Trumpiness with the Hispanic vote that I think both parties are going to have to start paying attention to, and there's an added focus. But when you look at what happened in Arizona, right? Fox News already called Arizona.
Right.
Significant overperformance in Maricopa County by Joe Biden. Significant. I don't think you get there unless you get to at least a 27%.
That's what I was
share.
thinking, yeah.
So I think, and look, we're not done in Texas. There's still counting to be done. If that number falls below that 33 percentage points, Texas is probably pulling a little bit out of reach right now. I haven't looked at the numbers recently, but I think if we're going to end up, Stu, in a 27 to 33% range, it may not sound by much, but that 5 points really could be determinative in races nationally going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the big stories here, if Texas goes Democratic, it's really the end for Republicans. I mean, as we know it, as a party is. You just can't get there. So, okay, it looks like it's going to go Republican tonight. But it's getting closer and closer. And I think what's happening, that's why I'm so fascinated by the Hispanic numbers, because under President Bush, or Governor Bush, they were getting 45, 46, 47% of the Hispanic vote. But he made a real serious effort to, and he cared about it passionately. And I've kind of been thinking that probably some of that Bush effect was wearing off, and you have a tremendous number of new residents who are Hispanic, and the Republican Party they know is the Corn and Cruz Republican Party.
Which is the kids in cages and build the wall. Mexico will pay for it, and that I think that would cut into the the Bush compassionate conservatism that we saw and what allowed him to establish those relationships with Hispanics in Texas. It's we're a long way away from that. I just want to bring in Rick, because I know, Rick, you are in high demand tonight, and the Lincoln Project LPTV audience is anxious to hear from the Rick Wilson. Rick, how are you feeling? What words of wisdom do you have at this point in the night?
Still a lot of counting to go, particularly in Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania. I think the call on Ohio was probably premature, so let's just be steady on that for a little while longer. I think that what we're hearing is there are a meaningful number, especially in Philadelphia area, of uncounted, undelivered mail ballots. Those are going to break 70-30 for Biden in the collar counties and in Philadelphia proper. So I think that is very much in play. Watch for Nevada to come in shortly. I think we're going to have good news there. And again, we're hearing numbers out of Dane County in Wisconsin that are going to reshape the count in that race. I also think that Michigan's going to tighten up.
What part of
very
Wisconsin is that? What part of Wisconsin is that, Rick?
That's the south center part of Wisconsin. And that is to the west of Milwaukee and Brown and all those other counties. And that is going to have a meaningful bump, we're hearing, in the Wisconsin numbers tonight. So
that's the Milwaukee
Tara,
suburb.
this is going to be, right, this is going to be a late night. There's still counting to do tomorrow. There may be counting going on until Friday in some states.
Right.
I encourage everyone to read an article about the red mirage. You're experiencing a lot of it right now, where these states have not counted all their ballots. They're reporting a lot of these election day things, including some calls being made on the election day stuff that are speculative. I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. Still in this fight, long way to go.
You remember in the Bush world, I was gonna say, in the Bush world, we didn't win on election day in 2004.
That's right.
We
That's
couldn't
true.
because of Ohio.
That's right.
We thought we were going to win, but we couldn't declare victory. So, I think that's something to remind Republicans about if they start clamoring that we should call victory. We didn't do it before.
But Stuart, it's a different environment now. It's, you know what I mean? Like before,
Yeah, I've
we didn't
noticed
have this
that.
anxiety. You know what I mean? We didn't have this anxiety because we didn't have a freaking lunatic in the White House that's been undermining the integrity of the election for months leading up to this, convincing a cultish group of people in this country that the election's going to be stolen from him if it's not called on election night. So, that has created this environment. That's why so many people are experience this kind of anxiety, because we didn't want it to get to this point because of the way Donald Trump behaves, and he's not going to handle it the way Bush and Kerry did.
Basically counted the T.
Right.
And they haven't.
One of the more disturbing things, I read a report, I don't know if it's accurate, that Attorney General Barr was in the White House watching the results with Donald Trump, which would just be extraordinary.
Inappropriate.
It's just extraordinary if that is in fact the case.
Not inappropriate, dangerous. I mean,
Yeah.
it's reflective of a relationship between the president and the AG that is dangerous to
Interior
democracy. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's a danger to American democracy if that's the case. We shouldn't just blow it off like it's, oh, there goes Trump again.
No, you're
Right.
absolutely-
That's the danger
it's
that
part
we're
of exactly what we're fighting here at the Lincoln Project.
Exactly. That's the danger of normalizing what Trump has done. And partially why I have to admit that because it's as close as it is, I'm just exasperated about where we are as a country. This should not even be a competitive freaking race.
Right.
There are 230,000 dead Americans. We've got a lunatic, ignoramus, misogynist, racist in the White House who has utterly failed at his job, derelict in his duty. He's too lazy and too ignorant to do the job as president. He doesn't get up for anything but to watch TV and play golf and tweet. And the country is going to hell in a handbasket and dying. And this freaking guy has a chance of still winning and becoming president again. What the hell is wrong with America? There's going to be a lot of soul searching going on, regardless of who wins this thing, because this shouldn't even be close. No wonder the world is looking at us, holding their breaths and asking, is America over? And I just,
Tara,
it's just, go ahead, Rick.
Tara, I think there's something that a lot of people fail to fully factor into all this. We said in the beginning that our mission was to defeat Trump and his enablers and Trumpism. This is a proof tonight that Trumpism is a lot more ingrained in our society, and the role of Fox and Facebook in making that bubble exist, so those people can believe that there are things like Antifa coming to get them, or that the caravans are full of MS-13 terrorists, or any number of other fanciful conspiracies that Donald Trump embraces are real. That's a battle that's going to have to go on, and I still think Joe Biden is going to pull this thing out. I still think the numbers are there to pull this thing out. However, when this is done, even when Trump is out, this is going to be a longer journey to try to reform the way that this country works, about our political media education, our political communications channels, the role social media plays in all this, because there is a bubble around the Trump world right now that is impervious to fact or reason. And it's one of the reasons we weren't after a lot of Trump voters. We were after that small number, the Bannon line number of swing voters. So in all that, in regards to all that, it's important that we keep in mind that this is a longer journey than just tonight. This is a battle.
Correct.
People are wondering how the hell do 47% of Americans still believe in this shit? Well, it's because you have Fox News telling them one version of reality and Facebook reinforcing it for them. So we're going to have to face up to a lot more structural things than just one election.
Yeah, the thing that really strikes me and has for some time here is Trump is Trump. But the role of the Republican Party or any political party is to serve a circuit breaker. And Republicans are the ones who empowered Trump. They're the ones who went along with this and validated it and had the leadership of the party stood up to Trump.
Right.
I mean, you have someone who says that he didn't rape a woman because she wasn't his type, And Republican leaders just seem fine with that. And that's what gives Trump his power. It is a tremendous dereliction of, I think, their basic oath of office to go along with Trump. And I think what's happening tonight is going to reinforce that the path for them is to continue down this. This is not going to be a repudiation of Trumpism. I think it's going to be a defeat of Donald Trump. But it's not going to be a wholesale rejection.
Keep in mind, Tara, even when, and I'm still going to say when Joe Biden wins this thing and it's all called, there's still going to be, the number seems to be 47% of American voters who are okay with having a leader of the free world who puts children in cages and locks the door and lets them sleep on the floor under foil blankets. That has to be addressed. That it's not enough just to go after senators who protected him. It's not enough to go after the people in the White House. Somehow that has to be addressed. And I don't know what the magic answer is. They are American citizens. They have a right to vote. They have a right to an opinion. But when you have that number of the people, of we the people, who are willing to vote for the guy that put children, toddlers in cages, that is an enormous heartbreak that we have to find some way to address in this country.
It's just even worse than that, Jennifer. It doesn't end there with the kids in cages. I mean, the abject cruelty of Donald Trump, the inhumanity of his tenure as president is unthinkable. And the fact that 47% of Americans don't give a damn about character or humanity or honesty or compassion or empathy or work ethic or having an interest in governing or attending your presidential daily briefings or listening to your experts, listening to science, handling a global pandemic through medical experts, treating our military with respect. People don't care. They seem not to care because they have this impression, a very twisted, dysfunctional definition of what being a leader is, being a strong leader, what it is to be, macho, and what it means to be a man. And I think these are going to be some hard conversations that we need to have as a society moving forward. It's how you treat the least among us speaks volumes about your character. And you look at someone like Joe Biden and his experience and his heart and his empathy, his, the way that he is human to people, his humanity, that couldn't get him over, get him, well, he's going to win. I'm still praying that America is going to do the right thing. But the fact that it's even this competitive is what upsets me. Mike Madrid.
Tara,
go ahead, Jennifer.
I think the worst part of what you said is that we have a president who seems to get delight from being hurtful. And I don't mean like his mean words. He seems to delight in hurting people, damaging people. And that's what bothers me most about this, because I am afraid that there are an awful lot of people in that 47% who shares his delight, watching him hurt people and be, being it's just so, mean isn't a strong enough word, but we have a president who gets some sort of personal satisfaction out of hurting people. And then we have all of these millions of Americans who seem to share in that satisfaction. That scares me about more probably than anything else.
Yeah,
I think
agree
one of
with
the lessons to me is that all that stuff that we studied in high school civics, that leaders matter, actually turns out to probably be true. Had Mitt Romney been elected, it would have been the same basic Republican Party, but it would have very different values now, and it would reflect it. It's that idea that if you appeal to the worst within people, they will respond with the worst. And we validated that. And it's really the first time, and I don't think we should lose sight of this, that a major political party in America has endorsed basically hate and anger. And we've always had hate groups in America. We had a huge fascist movement in the 30s. Father Coughlin, but why didn't that United States become fascist like so many countries in Europe? Probably because Roosevelt was president and not Charles Lindbergh. We would have been the same country, we just would have been led in a different direction. And I think that it really sort of is this fundamental role of citizens to care about who their leaders are. And, you know, as conservatives, we always said that the most important aspect was culture. The culture was the soul of the nation. It was more important than any one issue, that it embodied who we really were. And now we've just walked away from that, and it's just extraordinary. I can tell you what Trumpism is today.
We're going to have to figure out how to bring it back.
Yeah,
how to right the ship.
I can tell you what Trumpism is, but I don't have any idea what American conservatism is now.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't have any idea.
That's a long-term conversation. A very good friend of mine who's a conservative, earlier this evening, he was going off about this very subject matter, about, you know, what is conservatism and who will be able to redefine what that is if Trump wins again. What happens to conservatism? You know, where do the like-minded like us, like the supporters of Lincoln Project, where do we fit in, and what is our role moving forward culturally in the political culture? What do we do if the right of center party is dominated by Trumpism? That's another long-term conversation. But I see that we have another Lincoln Project co-founder with us, Reed Galen. Very Mountain West-esque in his get-up tonight. You got a trucker hat going on. Is that a vest? What is happening?
I wear a vest a lot. I'm a vest guy. Yeah, you know, it's a
Reed,
10-month article here in Utah. Thank you.
Yeah, Reed Galen, we have been kvetching tonight about kind of how competitive the race actually is. Mike Madrid has given us some words of peace and comfort, so everyone doesn't freak out and drink themselves into oblivion tonight, worrying about waking up to a second Trump term. How are you feeling? Where are you at? Speak to the Lincoln Project world and give us your take on where we're at.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on Madrid's ability to comfort and calm the worried masses, but I think he's able to do that mostly because of the work that he and his team did in places like Arizona, and I think the work you're going to see that they've done in places like Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania that are going to pay off. You know, I think we had a very specific plan for those places, very specific target set for those places, which you guys might have already talked about. But I think, you know, what you all were talking about when I came in, I think is the one that, you know, I think will probably occupy most of my thoughts over the course of the next 24 to 48 hours as we finish this off, which is I'm now in a place where I do think that Joe Biden will win. It will be a lot closer than it should have been.
Than we wanted it to be.
And it will say that, you know, we even said this, that, you know, even if Biden wins, 45% of the country voted for the guy who none of us can believe in. And so, Tara, you said something like there's no center-right party in America anymore. Like there's the Democrats and then there's the Trumpers. Like that's it. They might call themselves Republicans, but they are not behaviorally anything like any of us recognize, or I can't speak for y'all, or certainly even want to have anything to do with. And so I think that we always talked about the idea that the Trump, you know, Bannon, Fox News, Facebook stuff was really, I mean, Jennifer and I were in New Hampshire talking to folks outside a rally back in February, which feels like 10 years ago now, where we were amazed and somewhat frightened and certainly concerned by the idea of how efficiently and effectively the Trump folks were able to move their messages among their people. It's truly something to behold. And it's clearly taken far more of a grip than we thought on, you know, the body politic as a whole. And so I think that there's a hell of a lot of work to be done here, you know, pushing back on, you know, look, when we say that, you know, Fox News and all these other things are alternative reality, it's like there's no such thing as alternative reality. There's reality and there's not.
Alternative facts.
There's right.
Alternative facts.
And something's either true or it's not. And a lot of this stuff isn't true. And I think that one of our colleagues, Trigby, sent around a YouGov survey, I think a week or 10 days ago, that said, fully 25% of the country thinks that Joe Biden is somehow involved in a George Soros Democratic-led child sex ring run out of pizzerias.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that is a problem.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
mean-
we're sending a
biggest
we're
thing that
sending
you
a
just said-
QAnon we're sending a QAnon candidate to Congress, for God's sakes, in Georgia.
Right, but I think
this is
what
nuts.
we-
Another
the thing that
30
you
next
just
time.
said like, because we've said all along at the Lincoln Project, it's not our job to rebuild the Republican Party. They did their damage. Let them deal with themselves. And we've been so focused on this moment right now. We're not looking. We weren't looking beyond that. But what Reed just said that really, I think strikes a chord when you said there's no center-right party left.
Right.
He's right. There's the Democratic Party and there's the Trump Party. And if there's one thing that we know for sure as a result of how close this election is going to be, even when Joe Biden wins, the fact that it's as close as it is tells me the Republican Party is dead. The Republican Party, that this is what the Republican Party has become and what they are embracing.
Right.
The Republican Party is dead. They can call themselves whatever they want, but there is no principled conservative platform left in this country.
Right, and Schmidt likes to talk about this idea that, we assumed, at least I did certainly, this repudiation of Trump, and that
Right.
the party would shrink and would become this dwarf star that got hotter and uglier and everything else. I think it's more of a supernova now. The star has exploded and it has dumped its radioactivity all over the place.
Right.
Right, and it's still going out into the ether. And so I think that, what I think we're also going to see in the context of, if Biden ultimately does win, is that you're going to have a close, Senate no matter what, and let's say 48, 49 Republicans who are going to have nothing whatsoever to do with anything
Right.
that Joe Biden and the Democrats might need to get done, not for their own political gain, but certainly for the country. And, we could be back in a place where, in 2022,
Just like
we're having
this.
the same thing.
Yep.
And, we there's a lot of friends that we have and a lot of quote unquote moderate Republicans who are coming up in 2022 who we never thought would stand for this kind of stuff. And it's going to be hard to believe that if it's this close, that any of them are going to do anything but hew to the Trump line in their primaries to get through. And he's not going to go anywhere. So there's a lot of work to be done.
That's for sure. And, for people who ask, what happens after the election? Is the Lincoln Project still going to be around? And yes, we've been saying this for quite some time, but there is a role for us to play in being a pro-democracy movement. To Jennifer's point, rebuilding the Republican Party, that's not necessarily our role. Depending on the level of repudiation the Republicans were going to get tonight would determine my role in that, because I was hoping that there would be an opportunity for two healthy parties moving forward. I think it works better that way. But, depending on how this thing ends up, that's going to be a different priority
It's just
for me.
not going to be the Republican Party. There
Yeah.
is that opportunity
Yeah.
for two healthy parties. It's just not going to be the Republican Party, it turns out.
Yeah, it's quite something. Mike Madrid, do we have any updates on what's going on? For right now, I see that Michigan and things are coming in. Wisconsin, it's my understanding that we may not get any final results out of Milwaukee till 5:00 in the morning. Kind of give us a little bit of an update of where we are since we last spoke about a half an hour ago on kind of state of the race.
Well, Idaho was just called for Donald Trump in a shocking new development. So there's always Idaho. Look, Minnesota's moving in a strong position. We're going to have, Minnesota's a strong position. The count in Pennsylvania is of course, going to be the place where we focus on. But look, we're down to 4 states. And as Reed mentioned, we have very aggressively focused on these 4 states. We've looked at these upside down and backwards. They actually represent the 4 strongest states in the battleground that we have been looking at. And again, I'm very confident about how we're going to end up with Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan, candidly. Michigan's got a little bit of ways to go, but you've got Detroit and Oakland County that are going to have to report. There's going to be overwhelmingly 70-30 break for Joe Biden. And of course, if Biden wins Pennsylvania, and we're hearing about extraordinary turnout in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh, as I mentioned, Allegheny County and some of these other counties are overperforming dramatically. I think we're in a very good position. If we win Pennsylvania, you can actually lose Michigan or Minnesota. I don't think we will. We're in a very good spot, but you can even lose one or two of those and still get to 280. So, look, there is a roadmap. It's quite a good roadmap. Don't want to set expectations too high because anything can happen, as I'm always going to say, and I'll keep reminding us of that. Arizona, again, strong position. We invested in that state very early on for precisely this situation. We wanted to take that off the map and leave ourselves some options. I am a little bit concerned about what's going to happen with countings and ballots and potential recounts in Pennsylvania because the Trump campaign knows that that's kind of the last backstop. They're going to have to do everything they can legally and perhaps not so legal to make sure that ballots are disenfranchised and that votes aren't counted in the Philadelphia and Pittsburgh communities. But the numbers look good, okay? They look pretty good. I'd much rather be Joe Biden's campaign than Donald Trump's campaign at this point. There's a little bit, there's a new update. Nevada, looks like Nevada's being, or this is Arizona, I'm sorry.
Arizona.
It looks like
That's
CNN is
Arizona,
finally
yeah.
calling Arizona or getting close.
Okay.
Keep in mind that he's sitting at about 200,000 votes over Donald Trump at this point. There's just not enough votes outside of Maricopa County to make up that kind of a spread. So again, look, it's you know, we're going to take these all with a grain of salt, but if I had to pick 4 states out of all the 15 battleground states that I wanted to say, let's have these be the last 4 states that we count to put Joe Biden in the best position, it would be these 4 states.
Stuart Stevens, do you have anything to add to that? I know that, actually, I want to talk a little bit about the Senate, since we haven't talked about the Senate really at all. Have you been watching what's happening in your Mississippi race? I know that you were big on Mike Espy.
Yeah, listen, I think that a day is going to come when Mississippi is going to elect an African-American Democratic senator. I think Espy ran a very, very good campaign. I think he should be commended. And I think it's just a huge loss for Mississippi. The difference in quality of what it would mean to have those Mike Espy versus Sidney Smith is just hard to describe. But you know, I think that those of us who were deeply involved in the Bush 2000 campaign, I can remember walking out of the headquarters in Austin into a cold rain about 7 o'clock in the morning. There's a little group of us, and somebody said, you know, this might take 2 days. And we were all like, oh, that's crazy. No way.
Yeah,
34.
no, thanks, Stuart. I could spend the next 5 weeks in Palm Beach.
So, but you know, in the end, they played Hail to the Chief, and Bush became president. I think this is probably going to take some time. I think that Pennsylvania is going to be a slow process of counting. I think we're going to win. Biden will win Wisconsin. I don't think he's going to win it probably until early morning tomorrow, like 8 or 9 in the morning. But with Arizona, correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, he just needs to win 2 out of the outstanding 3, right? As long as we win.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's not a bad place to be. Pennsylvania is key. You're going to have to bring Pennsylvania home. Numbers look good. The margin that Biden won in Luzerne significantly cut the tremendous Trump gap that we saw in 2016.
Right.
So the numbers, the performance of the deep MAGA counties, as we call them, the T in Pennsylvania, where we were really going hard at the last couple of weeks. Frankly, folks, we pulled a lot of resources from North Carolina as we saw that moving away and put them in the T in Pennsylvania for specifically this purpose. The margins in Luzerne have shrunk significantly. That strategy seems to be paying off. The key, and what we're really waiting on right now to see in the next hour or so, is what the initial vote tallies are going to look like from Philadelphia and the collar counties. So, and I think we're going to get there. I feel good about it. You've obviously had headaches over Pennsylvania for a couple decades now.
Well, listen, I did both
the state better than anybody.
I did both the Tom Ridge's races there.
Yeah.
And the second was a pretty easy race, but the first was a long night.
Yeah.
And he was the last Republican to be reelected in Pennsylvania. It's a big, complicated, confusing state. I think Biden's going to win Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
When I look at this,
Why? Why, Stu? Explain to people why you're confident that Biden is going to win Pennsylvania,
Still-
given kind of what we're seeing happening.
I still think he's going to way overperform in the collar counties with a huge number of votes, and I think that they'll be able to get the vote they need out of Philadelphia itself, the urban areas.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, just to add on a little bit to that. I mean, remember that Trump barely won the state in 2016, and we saw significant underperformance by African Americans in Philadelphia, significant
Right.
overperformance in the places Mike was just talking about. So the T seems to be receding as far as Trump is concerned. And yeah, and look, I think that we did a lot of work with the African American community in Philadelphia, right? We
Yeah, I
put
think
a-
it's Philadelphia. That's,
yeah,
I agree.
put a lot
That's
of
where we're gonna
resources
get-
in there, and so I think that they've done an incredible job of turnout there, and so I think that
And this happened in 2000. We Republicans won Ohio and lost Pennsylvania. 2004, we won Ohio and lost Pennsylvania. Only once since 1988 has Republican carried Pennsylvania presidential, and that was 2016. So I think it'll revert the norm, and that Biden will win. But this, as you were saying, Tara, it's a very different environment now, and this could be very dangerous days these next couple of days.
Right.
And I would hope that Republican leaders would step and call for calm. I just have no confidence they're going to do that.
You know what, CNN is reporting
I know.
right now that Joe Biden is going to be making a statement shortly. And I
Yep.
suspect that that's going to be a big part of his statement, Stuart, what you just said, that he's going to be calling for patience and calm and unity and some patriotism in how we, manage ourselves over these next few days. He's obviously not going to declare victory. Nobody can tonight. So we should all listen to that statement, because I have a pretty good sense that we're going to see the kind of leader Joe Biden is capable of being when he takes to that microphone.
So,
in a few
Stuart, if you were
minutes.
sitting in Delaware, would you have recommended they do that?
To go out?
To make
Yeah.
a statement right now?
No, I think it's good to go out.
Yeah.
in front of Trump.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
gonna
And-
ask that.
Yeah, I think it's. I think they'll hit the right tone. They've been very good at these big moments, hitting the right tone. So I think yes, that's the right thing to do.
And we should also
Does
assume that
Trump
well,
is
I don't
gonna
know if we
say-
should
say
assume, but it
something
would not
tonight.
surprise me if there's a Trump Twitter. A
Yeah,
tweet
I'm surprised we haven't seen one yet.
Yeah.
3 minutes before.
Yeah.
Biden
Yeah,
goes-
right.
Yeah.
So
That's a
so
good
wait, can we
point.
just can we
Good.
take like a very unscientific poll right now? By show of hands, how many people think that Donald Trump will actually go in front of the camera tonight and give a statement? None.
Oh, I think
So then I would assume. So
I do.
Stuart
you think he's
thinks
going to go
I
in
think
front of
he
the
will.
camera?
Stuart thinks he will. Yeah.
Do you think he will, Jennifer?
Victory tonight.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't think he will. I think he'll take to Twitter. But geez, I hate disagreeing with Stuart because he's always right.
Well, that's that's where I was
That was
like,
the-
well,
that was the
if
other-
Stuart said it. Probably should probably go that way.
Well, I felt like
Exactly.
I felt like I was in a Frank Luntz, focus group right now. By show of hands, how many people here
Right.
think that
Hey,
Donald
Tara,
Trump
just
is going
remember
to
it's the
respond
words.
to? Right, that's right. Words that matter. That's a good book, actually.
The words that matter.
AP,
How
just
many
real quick,
people
AP
think-
just called Minnesota. AP called Minnesota for Biden.
Yeah.
There you
Okay,
go.
So we're
good.
tightening it up,
We're moving on.
There you go.
moving
Good,
on the right
good.
trajectory here.
This is why
So
we
just
hang
to
out
just
with
to
Mike
button it up,
Madrid.
I know.
We
Just to
we
button-
hang out with
just-
Stuart to tell us what to say, and we hang out with Mike to make us feel better because they
That's right.
Math.
and you
you
hang out with
also
Rick.
know
don't do math.
That the
And
New
you hang
York
out with
Times
Rick
now
Wilson, so
is-
you know who to tell to go shove it. Go ahead.
I'll just say, the New York Times is now saying that Biden could carry Georgia.
See, and
Really?
Yeah.
Mike was saying earlier, you
That's
got to
good.
wait. You
Yeah,
got to.
yeah.
And
That's a great
Tara,
lesson.
one of our teammates, Nate Nesbitt,
Yeah.
has been down in Atlanta for the last 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
With
He has?
prominent members of the African American community down there in Fulton and DeKalb County have encountered county officials trying to make their job harder to provide food and water just for folks standing in line. And so this stuff is real. It happens. And I can only
Yeah.
hope that what Nate and everybody else and the millions of people down there and the thousands of people who volunteered You know, I think if it pays off, you know, they should be as proud as anybody, literally in the world, for the work they've done down there.
Yeah, and you know, one of the most instructive things perhaps about the process that we've been through with the Republicans in the last few months is how blatantly open and bare naked they are willing to be
For sure.
about their voter suppression, voter intimidation tactics.
Oh,
You
it
know,
doesn't get
it's-
any more
and
obvious
that's
than Georgia.
This is,
Right.
This is why I think Trump's going to go out tonight. I think he's going to go out and say, "We've won this. They're going to try to steal it from us."
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think it's going to
That's
be a call to
that's
arms.
why I started to ask you guys what
Yeah.
you thought, because if you see Joe Biden go out there first, right? It's always important to kind of get out there first and set the tone. But then Trump always comes back and then responds to those things to the nth degree with you know, the lying, the rhetoric, the propaganda, so that he doesn't look like he's ever been one-upped or that he's losing. So my concern, which has been the reason why I've had agita for days and days leading up to this, is that we would get into this position right now. Biden takes the high road, Trump takes the low road, and creates freaking chaos for the next couple of days. And, you know, the country is just thrown into chaos. They don't know what to believe. So, Stuart, you
But,
think
you know,
that
I
Trump's
can't
going to
bel-
come
I can't
out? Stuart, you think Trump's
Yeah,
going to come out and give a speech?
down against Stewart.
And Jennifer
I
doesn't
don't-
think he's going to
here's
do
why-
it.
and
You
here-
think that he's going to?
and-
You wait.
and
You think
here's
that he's
why,
going
though,
to just
Tara.
tweet? But wait, you think he's just going to tweet and not come out?
I think after Biden makes his statement, he will do his call to arms and this whole thing on Twitter. The only reason I don't think he'll give a speech is because he doesn't give speeches if he doesn't have massive groups of people to applaud for him. I just, unless there's some
Or wait a minute.
organizing on
Wait.
in the Rose
I have-
Garden I
wait,
don't know
wait.
about.
I have another theory. He may not give a
Okay.
speech on camera. He could call into Fox News. Is that possible?
Yes,
Sure.
there you go. That
Look,
would work.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think, let me say this about the call to arms thing. I mean, the good news is that Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania have Democratic statewide office holders.
Right.
The people who
Right.
have both the
Good
authority
point.
to maintain order
Yep.
and to protect
Yep.
polling places
This should
and
not be
tabulation
underestimated. It's-
is a hugely important thing.
and Democratic attorney generals.
Right, and so I know that the like in Michigan, I know that Governor Whitmer and Secretary Benson and the Attorney General there have been
Yeah, they're
in
tough.
lockstep, making sure that whatever silliness was going to come, they were going to be prepared for. We've talked to Governor
Yep.
Wolf's political folks in Pennsylvania, right, that they understood that their concern was the tabulation centers, right, that this Mike
Right.
Roman and these other goons there, and I believe that, you know, Wisconsin as well, right, like Governor Evers up there, I think, doesn't want it on his watch that this went down when he
Right.
was sitting in the governor's mansion. And so
That's a very
and then I
good
think in a
point,
place
Reed.
like
I'm
Atlanta-
glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Because people need to know that, you know, I can tell you as I'm watching social media and watching what's going on, monitoring things as we're doing this, you know, people are freaked out. So, and they're worried about what Trump could do. So it's very important that people understand the point you just made, because who holds
Well, and even
state
in-
offices
even in North
controls what
Carolina,
goes on
right?
the ground. They control what goes on the ground, and they control whether there's National Guard. They control whether state police goes in. They control the attorney generals. All of those things matter if it comes down to trying to pull some shenanigans with this vote. What about the secretaries of state?
And look,
Do we know?
right, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Okay.
They're all Democrat.
They're all
They're all
Democrats, and I
Democrat.
believe the Secretary of State of Arizona is a Democrat as well.
Yes. You know, one thing.
Okay, that is
you know, we've heard
reassuring.
a lot of talk. Yeah, we've heard a lot of talk about the Republican legal efforts. You know, I think there has been a deliberate strategy among Democrats to underplay how prepared they were for this, because they didn't want to go out and say, you know, we have lawyers that are going to win it too. But I mean, for those of us who worked in the Republican Party, we're well aware that one of the great groups that supports the Democratic Party are trial lawyers, and they're not bad at this stuff. And they're going to have very
Right.
good lawyers. And if you look at the win-loss record of what Republicans have tried to do, gone to court to try to get,
Right.
I think they've lost 90% of these cases. It is still true that judges hate to take away the franchise from people.
Right.
which
Yes.
is really what you're talking
And we
about.
saw that in Texas. We saw that in Texas, which was
yeah.
important because those were Republican judges. One of them was a Trump appointee. And if they were repudiating these efforts, that's reassuring that the judiciary is, we can have faith that they're going to be independent when it matters, especially when it comes to disenfranchising people and their vote. Before we let Mike
Well, and
Madrid go,
there's
hold on, Reed,
there's an
hold on, Reed,
attorney
because I know
also-
Mike's got to
oh,
go.
sorry.
Go ahead. That's okay. Yeah, just hold your thought. Mike Madrid, I know you got to go.
Keep them
You have
calm.
one last word?
Yeah.
One last word?
Hang tight, be patient, breathe deep.
There you go.
Deep
All
breath.
right. Go ahead, Reed. I just wanted to make
No, I
sure
was just
Mike
gonna
got
say
one
also-
last word to calm people down. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to echo Stuart's point. There's an attorney named Mark Elias who I believe is either
Yes.
the attorney for the DNC or the Biden campaign, and he has been racking up legal wins left and right all over the country as Republicans, as Stuart noted, had gone to court to try and reduce the number of people that could vote, reduce the amount of time that ballots could arrive, and so they have been very well prepared for this. The question is now, you just got to make sure you keep doing it, right?
I would
I'm
also
glad you
say
brought
that I
him
think
up.
that the Republicans have underestimated the quality of character of people who are judges. They've spent this last 4 years trying to pack every possible what they think is a conservative judge into every level of the judiciary, right up to the Supreme Court. And over and over again, these judges have shown that they are independent thinkers, that they deeply respect their constitutional responsibilities. I think that the Republicans underestimate them, and that's to the benefit of the people. And Tara, I'm a little concerned about the fact that you're about to pop an entire bottle of wine for yourself there.
I'm doing
we're
this.
Talking.
I'm doing this in preparation for Michael Steele about to come in, because Michael and I know that we've been talking about this all night. When it was time to pour a drink, he's sipping on a Heineken. I'm about to pour a glass because it's after midnight.
There you go.
It's way too freaking close, and it's time to open up something.
I
I'm
love
sorry,
it.
Jennifer. I didn't mean to interrupt your comments there, but
I'm glad that you're comfortable and doing what you need to do to stay calm.
hey, listen, it's different for everyone, and a good Cabernet Sauvignon does it for me. Before I bring Michael in real quick, just to Reed's point, Mark Elias is one of the preeminent election lawyers in the country, and he has been doing yeoman's work on this, and the Democrats are lucky to have him on their side because he's doing real legal work, unlike some of the legal buffoonery that's happening with Republicans. So right now, if I were a betting woman, I would bet on Mark Elias all day long when it comes to these cases. So Michael Steele, welcome,
Hey.
my friend.
How's it going? How's the crew doing? I see
We're-
my buddy
we're going.
Stuart. My Stuart is like way relaxed. I'm loving it. I'm loving it, Stuart. Keep it going, baby. Bring that calm.
Well, Stu thinks
Well,
that
how are you
Donald.
feeling, Michael?
I feel good. I mean, I don't
Okay,
see
why?
because I think the numbers are there. I think we get the Arizona piece and we swing up into the upper Midwest. Where does it go south? I mean, you're sitting at 205 conservatively, all right? If you give the 11 to Arizona, you give the Arizona 11, you're at 216. So now how much do you need? You need 54 points, 54 votes.
Wait, I don't see it.
You got Minnesota,
coming from?
Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin staring in front of you. You can't pick up two of those three or two of those four?
Mm-hmm.
I think
See,
go ahead.
We swapped one mic out for another mic to be the Zen counterbalance to the rest of us who are having anxiety. Michael
Why
Steele,
are
you're
you
the best person at this point.
Take a seat, pal.
Oh, I thought it was Heineken. I saw the green bottle. I thought it was
Take a seat.
Heineken.
Jennifer, you were a party chairwoman. Come
Michael.
on. Talk to these guys. These guys
Michael, I have
these
no
guys-
concerns at all.
Jennifer, these guys were the operators who would come in the
concerns. I'm
room
just
wringing
waiting
their
to win.
hands.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here waiting to win, Michael.
I love it. I think it's gonna be a good night. I think Mike It's laid out the path and the strategy of this. The numbers are, look, I think a lot of folks kind of thought that it would happen a little bit faster and move a little bit more, but it's actually moving. I've been telling folks this evening, it's moving like it's always moved. Everybody fixates and freaks out over friggin' Florida. Who had Florida in Joe Biden's camp? Raise your hand. Don't worry, I'll wait.
Polls. Again.
What polls? What polls? I mean,
I don't know. Some polls
actually,
they had people believing that Biden had a shot in Florida.
right. So people who are crunching the numbers are looking at the dynamics of the race. No one's ever put Florida in that in the Biden box. Not even Biden. They didn't campaign.
Right. Well, they didn't go there.
They didn't go there. They didn't go there. Where did they go? Arizona, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Texas. Mm-hmm. And what are we seeing happening in Texas and Georgia right now? I mean, the fact that you've seen the kind of play that you're seeing in those two states, Georgia and Texas, you only can imagine how that's going to play out in a Wisconsin or a Michigan. I mean, so I think there's a lot less to freak out about than a lot of people may be realizing. Tell me where the map goes off. Tell me where the numbers go off the rail.
Right. But remember, we all were talking about, geez, it could take days and days and days. We said from the beginning we wouldn't know the outcome tonight.
Right.
And yet
Right.
we're as late as it is. The fact that we have as much certainty as we do in as many states as we do, kind of puts us ahead of the game a little bit. So
Yeah,
I'm with
I
Michael.
agree.
I'm gonna pour a glass of wine when we're done here too, and just not worry
You should
about
have brought
till
it with
morning.
you.
I
should have
agree
brought it
with
with
you,
you.
Chairman. I agree with you. You're absolutely right. No, I think that's the correct analysis because we are ahead of the game. And the backstop of the game is what a lot of folks like myself and others have been doing out here in preparation for the very thing that Jennifer was talking about. Right. So when you turn the corner into tomorrow, Joe Biden is speaking tonight. I don't think Trump will because it ain't in his nature to do so.
Did you hear our poll on that? I took a unscientific focus group poll on that,
Yep.
and Stuart thinks, so this is where we are. I was about to ask you where you are on this. Stuart thinks Trump will come out tonight and he will declare victory possibly, and then as things tighten or Biden overtakes in a couple days after all the votes are counted, he'll say it's been stolen. Jennifer doesn't think he'll come out. Reed, where are you? Do you still think he won't come out? Where are you, Reed, on this?
No, I think it'll be a tweet.
Yeah.
He thinks it'll be a tweet.
Yeah, I'll give you a tweet.
I think it's possible. Right. I think it's possible he calls into Fox News and does it as opposed to just a tweet. Where are you at on it?
I agree with Reed. I think the tweet is probably his favorite escape hatch in this moment. He doesn't want to confront physically the realities. He can't declare shit. He's at 136 electoral votes. What's he gonna say?
That'll be my question.
I'm 106, 100 and what? 24 votes away?
Yeah.
Come on, stop. Maybe somebody's had too many sing tiles. I don't know what the hell you got. Stop. You need to relax. The numbers are working in Joe Biden's favor. Now, again, tell me where in the upper Midwest they go off, where they get off the rails. If there's something that you guys see from the folks you're talking to that tell you that the numbers in Wisconsin and Michigan are effed up. Or the numbers, Pennsylvania, look at Pennsylvania. As choppy and as erratic as Pennsylvania is right now, okay, with Trump sitting here with what they got, and it's all early vote because they ain't counting shit in Pennsylvania.
Right, until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow. So he's sitting up with 2.4 to 1.8 with 61% of the vote in, and they're expected 7 million votes.
Right.
4 million votes still outstanding, people.
Yeah. No, this is good. I'm playing devil's advocate here, and I am personifying the angst that is out there with people on social media who are tweeting at us and asking us, what is going on, because they don't follow it at this granular level that we all do. And most people don't understand these dynamics and, what hasn't been reported yet and why. They just see the numbers that are being flashed on CNN and MSNBC,
Right.
and they're freaking out. So this is good, everyone. Michael Steele is reassuring you. Mike Madrid reassured you. Jennifer Horn is positive. She's reassuring you. Stewart and Reed are both confident. So all of us feel as though when the votes are counted at the end of the day, Joe Biden will win.
What have we said
fair
from the
to
very
say?
beginning? No, you hit it right.
Keep counting. Oh,
Yep.
that's what Rick Wilson
Keep
said.
counting.
F you, keep counting.
That's it. And then that's what we've been saying from the beginning. Every vote's got to get counted. And if the numbers look the way they look, this just, again, relook the march. Relook at the march. You're coming through the South. Trump is winning what Trump should have won, right? Florida would have been, oh, wow, okay, good night, game over. Georgia would have been, okay, good night, game over.
Right.
Same with Texas, but Trump is winning what Trump is supposed to win, right? Biden has won what Biden is supposed to win. Now you get into the play where, an Arizona is suddenly a different narrative for you.
Yes.
Now, every expectation is Arizona was going to Trump. But as we sit here right now, I'm looking at what is this? 54% for Biden to 45% for Trump.
Yeah.
76% of the precincts in. I'm sorry. I've done math well enough to know he ain't making that shit up.
Right.
Trump is not closing that gap.
Thank God you're here.
It's Michael Steele. He's like your uncle wearing his reassuring sweater vest.
Yes.
And letting us all know.
It's all gonna be
Everything's
telling
gonna be
you.
okay.
He ain't making.
He's done the math. We're good.
Where's he getting the numbers from?
Trump is gonna lose Arizona. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked a lot in Arizona. You win Maricopa County like that.
That's right.
There's just not enough humans out there to.
He's the Zen one. You got Zen sitting next to you. Stewart knows. So bank the 11. Bank the 11.
Right.
Just go off the numbers we got. Bank the 11. That gets us to 216. All right. Now you've got the upper Midwest. Georgia's still out there. North Carolina hasn't been called yet, but it looks like it'll probably follow. I think Biden may actually pull North Carolina out of his ass. All right.
You do.
What do I know?
Why? Why do you think that? What's left in North Carolina?
Because from what I understand, I'm just trying to get the last little bit here. It's down by 1 point. It's 2.7 to 2.6. 95% still outstanding. And what I understand is a lot of that vote where you live is still coming in.
I live in Virginia.
Right.
Oh, you talking about? I thought you were talking
I'm sorry.
about.
I'm sorry. North Carolina. So
yeah. So we're talking like Mecklenburg County.
Mecklenburg County. Yes.
Charlotte.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we'll see, but that's fine if he doesn't. So you're taking your 216 electoral votes and you're swinging into Minnesota, where Biden is up 55-43 with 78% in. You then travel into Wisconsin, 71% expected reported. Trump is up 52-47, but that's same day. They haven't counted.
Right. Hey,
Michigan.
Michael, I just want to jump in because Joe Biden's getting ready to speak. Is there a way that can we take that? Let's take that and hear what Joe Biden has to say.
Let's take it. Bring it, Biden.
Okay.
I'm gonna take off.
See, this is my opportunity to use the ladies' room.
Okay.
I've been sitting here all night. Are you done with me?
We feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted. But we're feeling good. We're feeling good about where we are. We believe one of the nets has suggested we've already won Arizona, but we're confident about Arizona. That's a turnaround. We also just called it for Minnesota, and we're still in the game in Georgia, although that's not one we expected. And we're feeling real good about Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, it's going to take time to count the votes. We're going to win Pennsylvania. I've been talking to folks in Philly, Allegheny County, Scranton, and they're really encouraged by the turnout and what they see. Look, you know, we could know the results as early as tomorrow morning, but it may take a little longer. As I've said all along, it's not my place or Donald Trump's place to declare who's won this election. That's the decision of the American people. But I'm optimistic about this outcome. And I want to thank every one of you who came out and voted in this election. And by the way, Chris Coons and the Democrats, congratulations here in Delaware. Pardon me? Hey, John, the Gov, yeah, the whole team, man. You've done a great job. I'm grateful to the poll workers, to our volunteers, our canvassers, everyone who participated in this democratic process. And I'm grateful to all of my supporters here in Delaware and all across the nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, you heard me say it before. Every time I walk out of my grandpa's house up in Scranton, he'd yell, "Joey, keep the faith." And my grandma, when she was alive, yelled, "No, Joey, spread it. Keep the faith, guys. We're going to win this." Thank you, thank you, thank you. Your patience is great. Let's walk over here.
Joe Biden, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, coming out on a chilly night in Wilmington, Delaware, to tell his supporters, in essence, to hang in there. He said at the end, "Keep the faith, guys. I believe we are on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early."
All right, short but sweet from Joe Biden, giving words of confidence. He thinks that we can win this. According to our Lincoln Project brethren, they think he can win this as well. And we want to say thank you to Reed, Stuart, Rick, Mike, and Jennifer, who have departed from us tonight. Michael Steele, it's up to you and I to take this home for folks. What did you think of what Biden had to say? And what do you expect to come from Trump's stubby Twitter fingers in response?
Okay, so at a certain level, we should be concerned about what the president tweets at a moment like this. But at another
Right.
level, we shouldn't really give a crap because votes are still being tabulated and will be for the next 48 hours. Let's just take it and extend it out, depending on what, when they get in the room tomorrow and they start looking at the ballots and figuring out how many, of a million or whatever they can get through, we'll see. I think Joe Biden struck the right tone. He kind of laid out, okay, this is where we are. They just called Minnesota for us, put another 10 in our bucket. Arizona once it's been called, but we'll see. But that's 11, put it in the bucket. You look at Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. You still have Nevada out there, and Georgia and Texas. We'll see how this plays out. I think Biden is in, again, as we've said, Tara, and you've talked about this, and so have I. There are more roads for Biden to 270 than
Right.
Trump. And so now, if you take an Arizona off the table for Trump, he's got to find an extra 11 electoral votes somewhere. Where does he get them?
That
he
is an
had it-
important point. People need to realize that, just to kind of put it in context as we wrap up the night and as people go to bed and wake up in the morning wondering, where are we? What the hell is happening? Right now, Donald Trump hasn't won a state that he wasn't supposed to win. Joe Biden has won a state he wasn't supposed to win, and that was Arizona. It was key and incredibly important. It was wishful thinking. We were hopeful that Joe Biden could pull out wins in a couple of other places, possibly Ohio or Iowa, but he wasn't supposed to. That was going to be overperformance. Trump was supposed to win those states. Frankly, I don't know if you heard the conversation earlier, Michael. I went off on a diatribe about how this whole thing shouldn't be competitive to begin with. Okay, it's absurd that this is even a competitive race with this lunatic psychopath that more people have died under than any other president, including, with world wars and everything else. It's nuts. But here we are. And
Yeah.
America is going to have a cultural soul reckoning about what they're accepting of and why. But that's for a different day. Right now, we need to focus on the road to 270. And the position that Joe Biden is in a much better position to win this thing than Donald Trump. Would that
He
be
is.
fair to say?
It's very fair. As it stands, with no more points on the board at 1240 or 1250, it's 205 Biden to 165 Trump. You still have a significant number of states in play. They haven't called Iowa yet. All right, so you're looking again at states where Trump should be locking it down and closing
Right.
out the conversation. The conversation is still open. Now, he may still win Iowa, but what does that tell you about the states that the competition is really focused on? Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, et cetera. So the dynamics are such that you're right. Biden is in the driver's seat right now. Unless he loses a hubcap or a wheel, he should be good.
Let's take a tweet before we go, and I make good use of having you,
Do
Michael
I have to
Steele,
drink?
here. Feel free. There we go. How goes the military absentee vote? Any news there? Brian, it's fair to say that we just don't know at this point. Breaking down the absentee votes in some of these states, that takes a little bit to distill. And in places where it really matters, like Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, Michigan, in Pennsylvania, they can't start counting ballots until tomorrow, right? Isn't that correct?
Yes, so I'm chairman of the U.S. Vote Foundation and the Overseas Vote Foundation, and what we do is we concern ourselves about the overseas vote. And the reality of it is, you have certain states, Wisconsin was one of them, based on the Supreme Court ruling recently, that puts in question and to some degree jeopardy of those overseas ballots because of when they may arrive in the state of Wisconsin. And the reality of it is, when you have governors and state legislatures that say you can't accept a ballot after November 3rd, then you've basically put every man and woman in uniform, put their vote at risk, because their votes are going to arrive after November 3rd. That's just by definition what an overseas ballot does. They're not relying on the U.S. postal system, which we know the Trump team effed up as much as they could. They're relying on getting that mail from Qatar, from Bahrain, from Europe, from Africa here to the United States in a little state called Wisconsin. And so it's a real concern about when those ballots get in and whether or not they actually get counted because of some of the machinations by some of the state legislatures and changing the rules to prevent counting such ballots after November 3rd.
I think when this is all over, this furthers the discussion about a new Voting Rights Act and election reform, because this is absurd. There should be no question about whether these votes should be counted or not. I mean, it's common sense. If it was sent before the election or postmarked before the election, and it, by no fault of the voter, it gets there after the election, there needs to be some type of grace period. And that has
Right.
been the case in many states. But
Yeah.
because of the way that Trump has muddied the waters with this, there's a weird, expectation now that if the ballot doesn't arrive on this day and it has to be called on election day, then it's not valid anymore. We never had questions about this at a large, at this scale prior to Donald Trump and this election. really.
No, because every
Wasn't
state.
it Alaska or somewhere? It takes like 2 weeks before they certify an
Yeah,
election.
yeah. Imagine getting mail into Alaska, and particularly
Right.
the outer regions of Alaska.
Yeah.
Not the more metropolitan areas. So the upside is that, to your point, Tara, is that a number of states have taken the proactive stance of sort of factoring in this political cycle and the dynamics of
Right.
it, and allowing for those ballots to come, as to your point, as long as they're postmarked by a certain date, November 3rd, they will get counted. Some states, I think Michigan is one, where they have extended that period out like 8 days or 10 days beyond November 3rd, because they know how the overseas ballot. And there are a lot of folks overseas who live in Michigan, in the Great Lakes area. So the point is, to the tweet, the question in the tweet is, it's going to take some time, but understand the obstacles that have been put in place to prevent the accurate counting of those ballots in a timely fashion.
Right. And we should never be disenfranchising, particularly
No,
military votes, ever. And any
no,
effort to do that should be resoundingly criticized and not
absolutely.
accepted.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we have one more tweet, Michael Steele. What have we got?
Sure.
Oh my God, it's Donald Trump. Drink, everyone. We are up big, but they are trying to steal the election. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed. Well, we
Well,
predicted this. We predicted this. We predicted this. Stuart, Jennifer Horn, and Reed predicted this. Stuart Stevens, sorry, buddy, you were wrong. But as it was I thought he would call into Fox News. But you were right too, Michael Steele.
yeah, I figured the
This is what he's
tweet was the
doing.
easy way out. And the tweet is unmitigated bullshit, because the reality of it is that's exactly when you count the votes, when the polls are closed. So I have no idea what this man is even freaking talking about. Look, the deal is, we know this is coming. We know this narrative's out there. He knows his people. I'm telling you, his people are looking. They know what's in the bank in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. They know they're looking at right now. Donald Trump in Wisconsin up 51-47. Call the race. We said he was going to do it.
Yeah,
He doesn't
Jason
want
Miller
those.
said it.
Right.
He said they were going to do this on Sunday, and that's another thing. Jason Miller should never be on anybody's news station ever.
He's
but
up.
nonetheless, this is what they said they were going to do. They telegraphed this.
He's up 53-45 in Michigan. He wants to stop the count. And he's up 57-42 in Pennsylvania. He doesn't want them to count. So he wants those three states now to stop. That's why he tweets, no vote should be counted after the polls close. Donald Trump, go to bed. Just go to bed. You're an old man. You need to go to bed. Just relax those brain cells, sleep. And we'll see you in the morning.
The few that he has left.
Because this count ain't gonna go your way, baby. It ain't, and he knows it. And so this is what everybody's been talking about happening, is Trump getting out and trying to shut down certain states, because he knows those three states, those votes are going to come in Wednesday, Thursday, and possibly Friday. So he doesn't want them counted.
Right, and also the places where those votes will be counted are the urban centers that have larger populations. Takes a little bit longer to count those votes, and those aren't his people, and he knows it. So here we are.
I mean, you look at Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, they just counted same day votes in coming out of that area, and you're already, in combination with everything else, looking at 1.9 million votes for Biden.
Because Pennsylvania law says they can't start opening and counting the other ballots until freaking tomorrow. Well, later today, it's after midnight. That's what their
so
law
they can
says.
start now, right?
Right. It's absurd for Trump to say this, that after the polls close, you can't count votes. The state law says they don't start counting votes until after, the day after anyway. So it is really important that people pay attention to mainstream media news sources that will explain this and will be able
Right.
to distinguish the truth from the bullshit, because we're going to hear a whole lot of bullshit coming out of
Oh,
Donald
baby,
Trump
you got
and
it.
his
Yeah.
people for the
Yeah.
next couple of days.
Yeah,
Be
the bullshit
prepared.
meter is going to be hot and running. It's going to
Yes.
be, but everyone just stay calm. Again, just recognize there's a lot of vote left to be counted. Drink and get some rest, and get up tomorrow morning, and the count will resume. This is not a challenging process unless you have individuals, I can't even call them leaders, like Trump, that make it a challenge for the American people and create anxiety where there should be none. Because every vote is going to get counted that's valid, duly certified, and noted.
Before we go, what are Republicans going to do, Mike? What are they going to do if Trump keeps this bullshit up about, we're winning, they're stealing it from us? Do you have any faith that Republican leaders are going to tell him to cut this shit out, or are they going to go along with it? Because
From what
frankly,
I
I'm
heard,
not too keen on whether
well,
Republicans are going to say
yeah,
anything.
I've heard had some conversations today on this, and apparently there is in the higher levels of the leadership an agreement, an understanding. I don't know, maybe a rapprochement. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but where they if this thing gets out there and it's very clear, these other states drop for Biden, they're prepared to go and have a conversation. If Trump starts
Let's hope so.
tweeting shit like he just did,
Right.
Well, then they're going to go and they're just going to look, dude. Well, because here's the problem these folks have. Cutting off the vote in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, or anywhere else, Texas, Nevada, Montana, where you gonna draw the line, right? You've got Senate campaigns that are still underway. Those votes are going to be a part of that number as well. So when you're talking about control of the Senate, it matters when you start talking about, well, we don't want any more votes out of Wisconsin, or we don't want any more votes out of Pennsylvania.
Or any other down ballot races that may be close.
Right.
Donald, and this is another example of where Donald Trump doesn't give two shits about what happens to the Republican Party or down ballot races, or how his actions impact other races. He doesn't give two shits about that.
Right. No.
And so
no.
so Republicans are still, bending a knee of fealty to him. Meanwhile, he doesn't care about their electoral prospects at all. But, yet you've got Marco Rubio out there acting a damn fool and, encouraging the nonsense that happened in Texas. And I mean, just these people are incorrigible.
I don't even get
and
what Marco was thinking. I don't even know.
We're coming for him.
That is the completion of the sycophantic trip. I don't even understand it.
I know. Anyway, I believe we have one more element for this evening before we wrap it up. We are up. Oh, Twitter flagged Trump's tweet tonight. We're up big, but they're trying to steal the election in caps. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed. So Twitter has said, this is misleading, and it's in dispute. Oh, good for Twitter.
Very good, Twitter. Very good, Twitter. Now everybody needs to trash the hell out of that. Just go and just trash the hell out of that tweet. And that's the thing. Stuff like that should just be pulled down, because we know it is factually wrong in terms of the last sentence about when votes are counted. And we know that it is otherwise bullshit in saying that people are trying to steal the evidence, the election, because there is no evidence of that. It's friggin' 1 o'clock in the morning. Trust me.
But when does that matter?
They've locked up ballots. Ain't nobody doing much else at this point, except on the West. It's crazy.
Well, to emphasize the point that there are places where they are still counting the ballots, they are counting them right now as we speak in Philadelphia. That's happening right now. There you are, folks. That's democracy in action. Our good citizens are there counting every vote legally that comes in. And so rest assured The system is working. On that note, thank you, Michael Steele. I love you, brother. We're
Same
in this
here.
fight
Love you
together.
too.
And keep the faith. Thank you again to all of our Lincoln Project brethren that came and chatted with us tonight. God bless Mike Madrid and the numbers crunchers for keeping us all sane. And we will see you guys back here tomorrow night at our regular time at 9 p.m. And Jennifer Horn will be on her program at 2:30 tomorrow. Vote for America. Be sure to check her out. We'll have more details on where we're at tomorrow at that point, and we'll be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. Good night, everyone.